Oh man, look at that. It's also a place where I cried on my bike. But not today, Lloydie. Not today. And it would be rude not to, really, wouldn't it? I am back riding my bike for Dan's adventure, which is 1,000 kilometres before Christmas, to fulfil a promise, but also to raise some money for World Bicycle Relief. And that means I'm back riding in the New Forest, which has brought back a lot of memories when I grew up riding a bike. And so I thought it would be nice to show you around my local training loop and give you the GPX files in case you're ever in this neck of the woods. And I would recommend that you come and visit because it's a great place to ride a road bike or a gravel bike, as you'll see. The ride starts here at Cafe Velo in Ringwood, which is my current hometown. And it's the perfect venue really to start our bike ride because it is located just on the edge of the New Forest National Park where I'll be riding today. New Forest, in fact, is the newest national park in the country, having gained that status back in 2005. The ride is 85 kilometres or 53 miles, including around 12 kilometres of gravel tracks. There's a link to the GPX route in the description below and also a link to one that avoids the gravel, if that's not your thing. Either way, it starts by taking the back route towards Bransgore, which is where I grew up. My parents moved there from London when I was 4, and it was where I first started mountain biking at the age of 13. Right, I'll just finish my coffee and we'll get going. Over 8 k's in and we're on to the first climb of the day. I say climb, it's not exactly a mountain. I think it's 1.3 k's at an average of 4%. But as a youngster, I did a lot of intervals up here. So I spent plenty of time suffering on this road. And at the top here, you reach the dizzy heights of probably about 100 metres above sea level. This, in fact, was the venue of a mountain bike race back in 1994, which felt like a really big one. I think it was only a Southern Area Mountain Bike Series race, but there were a few good riders in the elite races who I'd seen in the magazines. So I was loving it. I was here with my disposable camera, like a happy pig. At the top, we hang a left towards Burley onto the first really open section of road. There are a lot of these around the New Forest. Great when you've got a tailwind, but not so good if it's a headwind. I always check the wind direction before I head out on a ride in the forest. And that stretch of road leads us here to Burbush Car Park, which is basically the area in which I started as a mountain biker. Now, the New Forest has always been incredibly frustrating for mountain bikers because they've never really made any provisions in terms of specific areas or single track, etc., which is annoying when all you want to do are a few jumps and berms and other rad stuff like that. However, in this modern age of gravel riding, the New Forest is absolutely perfect, which is why I've included a few gravel sections on my ride today. Now, you may have noticed I'm actually on my Albert Orca road bike, but these sections are pretty tame and pretty flat. So as long as it's not too wet, you should be all right on a road bike. Just make sure you pack a couple of spare inner tubes. This first part heads along a disused railway track. The 60-mile stretch opened in 1847 and went all the way to Wimborne. It was known as the Castleman Corkscrew because of the way it wound its way through the forest. It was closed down in 1964, but some of it is now open to ride down. Right, if you continue down this way along the railway track, you will get to Holmesley Tea Rooms, which is an opportunity for a very early coffee stop. But we're going to head left up this climb and very quickly onto sector number 2. So that second sector takes us out there, Wilverley Plain, and back onto the road here. And actually you might recognise this part coming up in just a second, because it's where we filmed our first look at the Factor Vista gravel bike a year or so back. And it is a beautiful vista over the New Forest there, especially on a day like today.
From here, we take in a nice descent in towards Brockenhurst, another opportunity for a coffee stop if you so wish, and not a bad place to do so, as it's previously been voted Britain's most beautiful place to live. It's also a place where you could start the ride if you want to get the train down.
But rather than stopping, I'm going to press on because, well, I've got a few kilometres to ride after all. That road basically winds its back on itself and down here to Ornamental Drive, which is really quite stunning. Apparently a forest worker back in the 1800s planted a load of sequoia redwoods, conifers, azaleas and rhododendrons. And these redwoods are now the tallest trees in the whole of the New Forest. It's stunning at all times of the year, so I always try and include it on my local rides.
The road leads to a junction with the A35, which is a busy road, so make sure you cross it with care, particularly as there is a cattle grid on either side to keep the New Forest ponies away from the main traffic. If you're going to do any road riding in the New Forest, you're going to come across a lot of cattle grids, so it's important that you know how to ride them. There's nothing too complicated about it, but there are a few pointers. Firstly, make sure that you approach them head on like this. Never lean the bike, particularly when it's wet, because they are slippery b****s in the wet. And also try and approach them with enough speed that you don't have to pedal over them either, but you should be absolutely fine. On the other side of that main road, we're straight onto the Boulderwood climb, which again is particularly pretty through the trees. It starts with a steady drag and then gets gradually steeper and steeper and steeper.
In this last part, it goes into double-digit gradients. And as a full-time rider, I knew I was going well when I could sprint up this in the 53. Today, I've got a 50, and I'm not even in that, down on the 34. Conclusion being, I'm not going very well. Now again, this is not a huge climb and nothing like you'd find in other national parks around the UK. And that was a bit of a frustration back in the day as a full-time rider when I wanted longer climbs to train on. But right now, being slightly less fit and wanting to get 1,000 Ks done as efficiently as possible, New Forest is perfect. Right, onwards. At the top, we're going to fork left past the Canadian Memorial, then a short but fairly quick descent that takes us underneath the A31 before climbing up the other side. Again, when I was pinging, I could sprint all the way up this in the big ring. But not today, Lloydie. Not today. Although this man probably could. This is the first of my mystery guests for today's ride. He's literally a mystery guest because I can't reveal his true identity. But his identity on Strava is Bertie Wooster, and he's a bit of a legend. Holds over 2,000 Strava KOMs, including this climb and the one we've just done. It's like the Stig of cycling.
I told you it can be quite open in the New Forest, didn't I? In fact, rather ironically, there are a lot of parts of the New Forest where there isn't a lot of forest, this being one of them. This is Stony Cross, which was opened as an airfield back in 1942 during World War II, where it served the Royal Air Force and also the US Air Force too. It's also a place where I cried on my bike as a 16-year-old. So I didn't have a road bike at the time, but I had purchased some road tyres for my mountain bike wheels, which I'd fitted, and I'd set out on a 30-mile ride with the aim of averaging 20 miles per hour, which was going very well. At the start of this road behind you, I'd averaged 20.3, and then I hit it into a block headwind, and by this point it was down to 19.7, and I couldn't go any harder, so I burst into tears. It was a bit of a low point, but looking back, it was quite an insight into the way my brain works, because I like hitting numbers and I hate it when I don't hit them. In fact, I'm only just about getting to the point where I can go out on a ride and not be obsessed by what I'm seeing on my computer. At the end of the road, you take a left turn and then you fork left again, then cross the main Cadden to Fordingbridge Road before heading down No Man's Land. You'll be glad you're going down this rather than up, because it's a steep one. And also slightly off camber for some reason, so take care when you do descend it. At the bottom, there's a possible pub stop at the Lamb Inn. And it would be rude not to, really, wouldn't it? Particularly rude, actually, as my second mystery guest is waiting for me inside. Hello, mate.
Hey, mate.
Got my pint already?
Yeah, all ready to go.
Right, let's go and grab a seat. Cheers. This is Roger Hammond, who holds the grand total of 0 Strava KOMs around the New Forest, but he is still a bit of a legend because he's finished both 3rd and 4th at Paris-Roubaix, and he was a teammate of mine at the Cervelo test team, which I'm sure he's got an anecdote or two about.
No, not really. But we can talk about my 3rd in Paris-Roubaix if you want to.
That's all right.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers. Just after the Lamin, you take a left-hand turn which goes over a cattle grid, and then another left at the end of the road, which leads you eventually to Lover. Now apparently the post office at Lover used to be inundated with people on the lead up to Valentine's Day who wanted to have the Lover post stamp on the envelope that they sent to their Valentines. How romantic. I say apparently because I never received one with the Lover stamp on. Or without, actually, if you want me to admit it. Cue some violin music here if you want. At the end of the road in Redlinch, we turn left and then fork off right to a narrow descent into Wood Green, and then another left towards Sandy Bulls. Yes, you heard that correctly, Sandy Bulls, a campsite and another former mountain bike race venue. The terrain is really quite rolling on this part of the ride with hardly any flat, but the worst is yet to come. Unfortunately.
Now this is a dead straight road, and in front of you, you can already see it now, is what can only be described as a wall. Now if you're very fit, you can utilise this small descent before it to build some speed up and sprint all the way up the wall. Or on the other hand, if you're like me, you can grind up the 25% gradients of Blissford Hill on your granny gear. Oh man, look at that.
Now, if you would rather avoid that pain towards the end of your ride, there is an alternative road that's only slightly longer, but far less severe in terms of gradient. But you want the challenge, don't you? The next section of road takes you back towards Ringwood, where we started, and past another possible pub stop, the Royal Oak, although I am going to resist this time. Instead, I'm heading on to meet my final special guest. Sorry I'm late. Final special guest of the day, this is Jude Lloyd, my son, who once upon a time wanted to be the next Daniel Lloyd, but now appears to want to be the next Matthew van der Poel, which I guess is quite understandable, isn't it? You want to do the last part of the ride with me? Yeah. Right, let's go.
Remember who I used to ride for, Jude?
The Cervelo test team.
Right, yeah. Have you told your mates about it?
No.
You stay on the front, I'm just going to sit on your wheel, right?
We are effectively headed back into the New Forest now, past the Red Shoot pub, lovely roast at the weekend and another possible pub stop, and then up a small but deceptively hard climb. Then it's effectively the home run and the final gravel sector.
And this is basically the final climb of this route. Quite a tough one, Jude, isn't it? This gravel one. But from there on, it's downhill almost all the way back to Ringwood. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Over the top.
From Linford, we are back onto tarmac, albeit on a small road, and a descent down towards Powner, and finally back over the A31 and into Ringwood, where we started. And we're back after around about 87.5 kilometres. Did you enjoy that, Jude?
Yeah.
It was good, wasn't it? And if you would like to go around that same route, you can find a link to the GPX in the description down below. And there's also, as I mentioned earlier, a link to one which is entirely on the road, if gravel isn't your thing. Also in the description is a link to my Just Giving page. I'm doing Dan's Adventure, which is 1,000 kilometres before Christmas, to try and raise as much money as I can for World Bicycle Relief. They are getting children onto bikes for a very different reason. Not necessarily to become the next Matthew van der Poel, but so that they can get to their school a lot quicker. Many of them are having to currently walk 2 hours or even more each way to get there, which means that often they quit their education before they finished it. Any donations that you can make will make a huge difference and will also be very much appreciated. Right, if you've enjoyed this ride around the New Forest and you'd like to see other presenters do rides around their neck of the woods, let us know in the comments section down below. And if you'd like to watch another video and your kid's about to get on a balance bike, you can find out how to do that with Jude just down here.